what I'm involved in, right? I think I'm a fan of cubes. I'm a fan of cubing. I love our little world. Um, and I want it to be seen, and I want it to be more mainstream.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Plus 3, the show where it feels a little bit cooler in here than normal. I'm Matt Rosman, joined by Manu Singhal, John Epley, and our special guest today, Mike Field of SpeedCube NZ.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Thank you so much for having me. What a treat.
Welcome, welcome.
It's really cool to see you. Really cool to see a fan of the show.
Yeah.
Or
fan.
however you put it. Like fishing for a collab, getting the YouTube content, whatever you said when you first shouted us out.
Oh, that's right. I did, didn't I? Yeah. I don't know. I yap so much. Honestly, the yapping is so prolific. I forget a lot of the things I've said almost immediately. So
You get yourself into messes like this.
yeah, and here we are. Yeah.
No, see, that's why this is the perfect collab, because like we also talk way too much. So
I'm about it. I'm enjoying the way that the cubing YouTube meta evolves, and it seems to be in a state of evolution at the moment. I think cubing content is kind of to a point growing up a little bit, and that's something I'm sure we'll maybe get into. But because I know Manu, you wanna do some yapping about the format, about the content itself. So yeah, we'll see where everything goes. Hey,
most certainly, yeah. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Hey, before we get into it here, I just want to remind everyone again. I forgot the day. The 24th. The 20. Is it the 24th? I think is Indiana Championships 2024. Another Luke v Luke classic. We're gonna be broadcasting that live on SpeedCubing TV. SpeedCube. I'm so off tonight. Okay, I would just like to address something.
It's the beard.
I'd like to address. Yeah, the beard's not there. Now I've lost my power.
that's what's different. That's what's different. As soon as the call came on, I was like, he sounds like Rosman, but something's different. Something's changed. That's what it is. It's the beard.
I just want to let everyone know that John called me, like, he named me after the character from The Whale, like the Netflix movie The Whale with the really fat guy. And I personally, I just want to let everyone know before we start that John Epley is cruel and insensitive.
Dude, this episode is 4 minutes in and it's already downhill. Like, oh my goodness.
And you know what? We're going to correct it. John, do you have anything to say for yourself?
I said Peter Griffin, and then
You didn't just say Peter Griffin. You didn't just say Peter Griffin. I look like Peter Griffin. I know. No, man, that's crazy. Okay. Anyway, Mike, again, thanks for being here. We really appreciate you being here. I want to start off with kind of just a general, like, I guess, like, this origin story of Mike Field. You grew up in Scotland and, moved to New Zealand. And just tell me a little bit about what growing up in Scotland was like and how you first got into cubing and speed solving.
Well, so here's the thing. I never actually touched it until... No, actually, that's not true. I didn't touch it properly until 2016. So I was well in New Zealand. I moved here in 2012. But when I was a student, which is a long time ago now, I was living with a good mate of mine, Martin, and he, at a Christmas do for his work, he got a keyring Rubik's Cube, an absolute turd of a Rubik's Cube, but he became fixated on learning how to solve it. And he learned, and we all thought it was just the coolest thing ever. It was just like, it was his little party trick. He could solve this terrible little cube. And we're talking, geez, I graduated in 2008. So it was around 2008, 2009. So I think pre-WCA. And I remember vividly, he was looking for a tutorial. He was looking for some stuff online. And I wish I could remember whose video it was because it's so ancient now. But he came through to my room. It's just like, dude, what's this video? And this kid started the video with like, he said something, if you're new to cubing, and we found that so funny that someone called it cubing. Like, cubing? Really? What are you talking about? It's just it's a puzzle we got from the store. Cubing? What are you talking about? So that was my first ever exposure to the world was back in, yeah, it must have been 2008, something like that. I just graduated or something. And then I didn't touch it again. He did show me how to solve it. I maybe solved it once and then was like, cool, I'll carry on with whatever it was I was interested in 2008. I was still a musician back then. So, yeah, came to New Zealand, saw one in a store and eventually picked it up again and got learned how to do it, really enjoyed it, found speedcube.com.au, rest in peace, they're not around anymore, but I bought some cubes from there, started to get into it, and then I was looking at videos 10 years later going, whoa, this is a thing, this is a really big thing, I wonder if this happens in New Zealand. I kept digging in, I found speedsolving.com. On that, I found Oliver Jenks, who some of you might know. He was a very, very fast cuber in his day in New Zealand back in like 2017, 2018. This is how I found out how young everyone was in speedcubing, because I had no idea. And of course, I couldn't tell what his age was. But I found him on there. I realized he was in Christchurch, which is the same city as I'm in. I was like, yo, I'd love to meet up with you and just like chat about cubes and find out what the deal is. You're obviously in far deeper than I am. And I was like, this bar's just opened. I love it. We should go there. And he was like, okay, creep. I'm 16 years old. And I was like, oh my, well, okay, interesting. That's my debut in the community. Just asking some underage kid to meet me at a bar. Cool. So anyway, he came and he met me at my work, which was a youth organization that I ran. And then we started a cube club. We then, I learned that there was Speed Cubing New Zealand, which was based up north, that ran real competitions. So we brought the first competition, Oliver and I, down to the South Island, which was great fun in 2017, I think it was. I started a cube club, which still meets monthly. I still run it. So I guess I've always been interested in the community aspect of cubing, because I found this online community and I was like, I want to get these, because I was interested in youth work and connection and community and all these good mental health outcomes of community and connection. I was like, right, I'm going to bring this into real life and see what happens. And like, here we are X years later. Oliver started a store which I bought off him, and now that's my problem is running that, and I still run the club, and I'm still to a point involved in competitions and stuff, and to a wider extent I've always been involved in broadcasting. I've been a radio broadcaster. I ran a breakfast show, so like yapping is kind of in my blood, and performing is in my blood, and really I'm just a grown man who loves playing with toys. And so this is where I'm supposed to be, I think. I finally found a place that I'm really enjoying, and a place that I'm really comfortable in, and that people seem to be enjoying as well. So yeah, that was a long answer to whatever your question was, but here we are.
That's fine. Hey, before I ask a couple other questions, I want to briefly touch on you being a musician. So you majored in music at university, correct?
Correct. I have an honors degree, first class, in popular music production and drums. That's my instrument.
Play drums. What kind of stuff were you playing back then?
So I was
into.
into.
You still play now?
I haven't touched my drum kit in years. It's just sitting in storage at the moment. I all but retired when I moved to New Zealand, because I went at it really hard in Scotland. I tried very, very hard to try and make that my career, and I got to a point where I was just like, you know what? I'm ready to walk away now, feeling like I gave this a red hot crack, because I was at that point, I was approaching 30. I was like, I don't want to. Everyone who's doing it is like 21, 22. I'm gonna call this a day, without any real plan about what I was going to do next. But I was like, okay, sweet, let's move to the other side of the world and see what happens. What was the question there? Was I've forgotten again. I do this. Oh, that's right. Well, so my degree show, let me talk you through my degree show. I played, I opened with Lateralis by Tool. And then I played some Dave Weckl. This is really intense drum stuff. I reprogrammed and played a Tom York song called The Eraser. Radiohead and Tom York and Muse and Rage Against the Machine and Tool. Those were my absolute jams. I'm a huge hip hop head. Like, I produce a lot of kind of hip hop beats and things like that as well in the background, but nobody knows about that. And Yeah, where else? I reprogrammed and played the Singing in the Rain remix by Mint Royale. If you know that one, then shout out. And then I think I finished with Vicarious by Tool as well. So I was really into like synthesizers and really into drums and really into programming and really the tech side of music. So that kind of lends itself well to live streaming in a weird way, because it's a lot of just getting everything in its right place and having a bit of a plan, you know? So yeah, that's where I was. I went to, you know what? I went to see Tom York live just last week in New Zealand, and I that wasn't in New Zealand. No, that wasn't in Christchurch. But I wept openly. And at the he played Weird Fishes. He opened with Weird Fishes, and then he also played one of my favorite songs ever, Everything in Its Right Place. And my wife was with me, and I screamed so loud when he started playing Everything in Its Right Place. I was like, "Let's go!" She was like, "Hey, chill." But it was so good. It was such a vibe. He finished with an acoustic version of Karma Police, and the entire stadium was on its feet singing along. And it was, I'll never have a moment like that again, I don't think. It was incredible.
Yeah. Maybe to shift us back on track a little bit.
Sure.
What do you feel like in the early days of Speedcube NZ? What do you feel like kind of was your motivation early on, to set everything up and really get everything going?
I don't know. That's a hard question to answer, really. So I think you have to understand a little bit about my life situation, which is that I'm sort of primary carer of my kids because my wife is an emergency doctor, so her shifts are all over the place. So I've had to work out a career that like fits into the gaps between her shifts, which are never the same 2 weeks in a row. So I can't have a 9 to 5. I can't have a regular job. It doesn't work like that. Like I've got to be there for my kids at drop off time, my kids at pick up time, and then all of their activities that happen all around that as well, and the weekends and everything. So I was looking for something that I could be flexible with and I could be my own boss at. And Oliver approached me and was just like, do you want to buy this from me? I've got it to a point where I can't do it anymore. And I kind of looked at it, I reflected on it, I looked at what Oliver was doing, and he'd got all the basics set up, but I was like, there's a big gap here for marketing, actually. I reckon if I can just bring a different marketing approach to this, I reckon we can do real well. So that was kind of the attraction to it, and I was like, well, I do love playing with cubes, and I do love the idea of selling toys, essentially, right? Without being a jerk. I love cubing, I love cubes, but they are toys. And it also gave me the opportunity to get into content as well. So I was like, cool, these are all things that work for me. This makes me happy. Let's give it a go and see what happens. And I bought it on the auspicious date of the 1st of March, 2020. So just before things hit fans and it all went wrong.
Yeah, I want to ask one more quick question here before I turn it over to Manu and John. Have you gotten your kids into cubing, or do they just like not care about it?
I wish. My son Charlie, he's 10. He likes the idea of cubing, right? He likes the idea of doing a quick solve and being like, "Yo, check me out." And I have tried to teach him. But there's something about kids learning from their parents. They don't necessarily want to do it. Like, that's an uphill struggle. So it's not over for him yet. Like, he still may get into it. Georgie, my daughter, who's 6, like, Charlie's not going to watch this. She's the brains of the operation, okay? She's got the cubing brain. And I do love the idea of, actively encouraging female representation in speed cubing. So I'm like, maybe Georgie's the one. Maybe she's the one, So I have tried, but you also don't want to be that parent who's like forcing your kids to do something that you do, So it's a delicate balance. They have things that they're super into. Charlie is obsessed with rugby. Georgie is obsessed with dancing. So they have those things that take up so much of their time. That said, it would be handy and it would make my life easier if one of them was interested in cubing, because then I can take them away to competitions with me and then I get to go to more competitions. So it's a work in progress is what I'll call that one,
Yeah. Manu, Sean, you guys got some questions for him. What do you want to ask?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean-
totally. Oh, sorry, John, you first.
I apologize. No, I was just so excited because when he told me the date of you buying the store, that's something I wanted to ask anyways, is kind of the timeline because the business side of the world experienced a lot of effects from that as well too. So I was curious what that looked like for you, if that was something that really kind of shut down your supply so your store was slimmed down for a while, or if it was like a lot of other industries where people are at home, they want to get more into cubing, and you kind of saw a boom that is carrying into now, or what was your experience with what went on in the world?
Well, 2020 was interesting. So we got shut down. The way it was slightly different in New Zealand. We had shorter, sharper lockdowns than some other places in the world, because we had Queen Jacinda running the show. You know, she was onto it. Jacinda Ardern, who was PM at the time. We had a period of 4 weeks. So I bought the store on the 1st of March, and on the 23rd of March, we were locked down hard. And we had 4 weeks where I wasn't allowed to ship anything. And I just bought an online business. So that was a stressful kind of few days while we worked that out. But I'd put in a lot of work by that time in putting my systems in place and like communicating with my customers and things. And we had a nice sort of spirit here in New Zealand where everyone was just like, yeah, we get it. It's what it is. So what I was doing in that time was literally every order I got, which, remember, I was only shipping to New Zealand, so it wasn't like tons and tons of orders a day. I'm not on the same scale as any of the big stores in the US. But I would just, at the end of an afternoon, I would sit down, I would go through every order, and I would call them and just be like, hey, how are you going? Just so you are 100% aware, I'm going to ship these as soon as I'm allowed to. And like everyone was just so chill with it. I'd end up having these random chats with people on the phone. And it locked in these people for years. You know, people really respected that. And then after that, then we were good. We thought we were good. We were cruising towards the end of 2020, and I'd opened my retail store in December 2020 with a mate of mine. So I had the first cubing store in Australasia. It was very, very small, very humble, but it was really fun, and I was able to create jobs for cubers as well. We had Dwayne Ramos, who I'm sure you'll know, Jasper Murray. They're kids that have come through they're not kids, they're grown adults now, but they were kids when I first met them. I think they'll always be to me. They were staff in my store as well. Daniel Fraser as well, another delegate he is now from New Zealand. But what happened was I don't know if you remember Delta, the Delta strain, came through, and that one was the one where simultaneously when we were shutting down, China was shutting down, but in a secret squirrel kind of way. Like, you never ever knew. You could just like, here you go, here's thousands of dollars for my cubes, and then they were like, cool, I guess I'll send them at some point, I don't know when. But they weren't allowed to talk about it because they were not allowed to. I guess the Chinese population, they've got to be careful about what they email overseas, because I did ask sometimes about it, and my supplier would just be like, the government are doing a really good job, everything is fine here, thanks for asking. And I was like, okay, well, it's not though, is it? So that was really tough, because then I had my own issues getting people into the store. I had my issues getting stock into the store. My only option then was to take on debt, which I am still working on now. Like, we are not out of the woods with COVID. We're still, as business people, a lot of us, if we're still here, we've probably got debt left over from COVID. So yeah, we're still working on the long-term effects of COVID right now in our cash flow, but we are getting there, So yeah, COVID it's been there since day one. Like, the whole time I've run the store, it's been a battle against that as well as other things. It's always been there.
Do you think that that's something that helped the business ultimately with all those one-on-one connections you made, or if you got to do it all over again, would you just maybe want things to be a little more normal?
Maybe. I definitely wouldn't have had the retail store. In hindsight, I wouldn't have had the retail store because that was so expensive. Was it a mistake? Mistake's a harsh word.
Yeah.
You know what really helped though? Where we saw, and I've seen other stores' graphs that back this up. You know what we saw was a huge spike around two things, and that was Red Bull Rubik's World Cup and Netflix's documentary The Speed Cubers. Those two things combined in a really demonstrable material way. Our sales rocketed in 2021. I forget, like Rubik's did an online one in 2020 quite badly from memory. It was like the last one. I don't know what happened there, but I had some good insight to that because Chris Mills was working here. He was living in Littleton with me. Not with me, he was around the corner, but he was here every day and we were chatting about it. But those two things combined with, I suppose, the new energy that I had in the store, those two things combined into like mega sales. They were absolutely massive. It has died off since then. So that was definitely a wave of it being quite in the zeitgeist. You know, it was trending. And that's why, I think that's why ultimately I do get fired up when we are talking about cubing in the mainstream, because I have seen it. I've seen what happens when we have full-on mainstream exposure. We sell more cubes, people do go to competitions more, you know. And right now we're not in what I'm seeing in my data. We are in a bit of a lull. Even though competitions are picking up and people attending competitions are picking up, but we need another mainstream push, is my kind of feeling.
Do you have a sense of what you think that might be? Or, I mean, is that part of maybe why you are an influencer, is just so you can be on the cutting edge of that and do what you can and maybe help produce that? Because, I mean, that's a big part of, I think all of our involvement here is maybe not because we think we're going to be something, but we think that if we can elevate others, ultimately something will help the sport.
Well, that's definitely my position is I'm never going to be competitive. Like, that's not going to happen. I'm never going to win anything. I'm never going to podium. I'm okay with that, by the way. Like, that's fine. I know my spot in competitive cubing. But I suppose, like, I've taken a kind of, and we'll get into this more with what Manu wants to talk about probably, but, I've taken a strategy of just like, I guess it's like fandom. What I'm involved in, right? I think I'm a fan of cubes. I'm a fan of cubing. I love our little world, and I want it to be seen, and I want it to be more mainstream. But what's weird about that is I'm not making content that's necessarily that digestible by people who don't know what cubing is, because it's so niche. Right. Like a mate of mine who I keep popping up on his YouTube recommended just because we know each other and our phones are in proximity quite a lot. He's just like, bro, like, I've never seen someone niche down as much as you've niched down. Like, your niche is so niche, it's almost beyond a joke. And I'm like, yeah, I suppose it is. I suppose that's true. But I did see a void. I saw an opportunity of part of the YouTube world in cubing, or the UCubing world, whatever, that wasn't being served. And that is essentially the slop, right? The daily content, the less produced. Like, obviously I plan and I think about what I'm going to talk about, but it's a different format that because I watch a lot of YouTube, I noticed that it just didn't exist. The React content doesn't exist in cubing, and the slop approach doesn't exist. And I don't mean the slop like in a derogatory way. There's just no better way to talk about it, really. It's just a format. But yeah, I guess I am just trying to make a lot of noise. Like, it's about volume. It's about volume, the content I'm putting out, you know, just making lots of it available. And I am seeing it growing. It's growing really steadily. So I don't think I've peaked yet, you know. I don't know what the maximum my channel can be. Like, I daydream about it and I'm like, well, I think I'm going to hit 10K subs, but like 100K, really? It's like, are there even in cubing 100K people interested in what I'm saying? I don't know yet. I don't know. But I'm willing to give it a push and find out, you know, like we'll give it a crack for a few years and see how it goes.
We're going to clip this in like 3 years and it's going to be far past 100K.
Yeah, it'll be like 5 million or something.
That'd be epic. I'd take that. Honestly, I will, if I like a YouTube plaque on my wall for 100K, I'd be pretty stoked with that. Like, I'd be over the moon if I could get one of those just for yapping about cubes all day, you know?
I mean, this weekend, if you know Kerry Huang, also, like, he's one of our friends. He's also a cuber. I was at his house this last weekend, and I got to see like one of the YouTube plaques in person for the first time, and I'm like, wow, this is actually like really, really cool. Like, it, like, you see it in the background all the time, but once you actually see it in person, it's like, yo, that's neat. It's there.
Yeah. Who was that? Carrie
Carrie
Huang?
Huang. Carrie Huang. Yeah. So he has like loads of channels. His main channel, I guess, is Carrie KH. He does like a lot of like AI things on there.
He did the map. No,
Yes.
it's not a map. He did it looks like a map, but I've spoken to him. I looked at one of his videos, the data over time of the
Yes. Like the top
Oh.
10 and moves up and down. Yes, that's
awesome.
Cuberoll. That's also him.
QBKH. Yeah, okay, sweet. Yeah, I know who he is. He's a smart cookie. He knows about data.
Yeah.
I'm about that.
He's
That's cool.
he's just a fun guy to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up, Cubers?
I want to definitely talk about YouTube stuff a bit, and I want to pick into this particular thing about I guess it's called cubing journalism, right? During the massive like controversy last month with sliding and whatnot, right? Like I could basically like every time that there was some announcement that happened, there's a SpeedCube NZ video with alarm bell sliding, new information drop sliding alarm bell, and I thought that was really interesting because I feel like that kind of like minute by minute update, maybe not minute by like hour by hour update did not exist in cubing. So I kind of want to hear about like why you got interested into that like journalism angle and where you think that's going to go for cubing as a whole.
So there's certain words that are being thrown around that I don't know if I can fully claim, like influencer and journalism. You know what I mean? It's just like I'm just some goober with a microphone. That's literally all I am. But so I've always dreamed of. You know who Moist Critical is? You know who
Yes.
Charlie Moist Critical is? Okay, so I watch a lot of his content, and I watch a lot of other people who do this thing where they have a live stream. They then make videos out of that live stream, but then sometimes they just sit and they make a video at that live stream setup. And I've always thought that that's a genius way to do it, because if something happens, like I think the first time I did it, it was like the WCA sliding announcement just dropped or something like that. And it happened, and I looked around. The kids were at school. Actually, what was that, a nighttime one? I think the kids had gone to bed, or I was putting them to bed, and I saw that it had happened. And I was like, sick, well, I want to read this. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. I'll just read through it on film. I'll just turn on my stream setup on OBS. I'll just hit record on OBS and I'll just do it. There's nothing to set up. My light's already there. My mic's already here. Everything is ready for me to just sit and go, boop, here we go. Now we're making a video. And I did it, and it went really well. Like it did as well or better than any of the clips from my live stream. And I was like, dang, okay, that's pretty cool. And I've done that a bunch of times since then. The one that went crazy was talking about Yiheng switching to the cubicle. That's at like 9k views or something like that now, which is outrageous. For like one of my videos to get to 2 or 3k is like, that's a good day, but that one went to 9. I was like, hot dang, here we go. There was one I did like when I was on holiday in some house, and I just recorded it on my phone. That was honestly the thought process with that one. It was genuinely, I wonder if I can get away with this. I wonder if I can get away with just talking to my camera, not editing and uploading. And it went just as well as any other. I don't think I even put a thumbnail on that one.
From
was
what
just
I
a
remember,
title.
at least when I saw it, I don't think there was a thumbnail on that.
There probably isn't now. If it did its thing without a thumbnail, then I wouldn't have put a thumbnail on it. But yeah, that is essentially where it came from, is watching Charlie Moist Critical and being like, that setup's genius. I'm going to recreate that. And that's what I've recreated here. Like I just have this permanent setup now, a desktop computer even. I got a Mac Mini, so I'm not even on the laptop anymore. So it's just like I'm fully locked into this setup. And it works, you know. I don't need a green screen. I've got one. I could use a green screen. I don't need to though. It doesn't add anything really. I've taken a very stripped back approach. Just like, if I don't need it, don't do it. Is kind of how I've gone, you know. So yeah, the doing things as they happen is easy now, because I just sit here, I press go, and then I read the thing and I talk to it a little bit, you know, just try and explain it a little bit. I think some of the board stuff that happened, I was able to, because I'm on the school board, I've been on boards and I've worked under boards and stuff, so I was like, I think I've got some insight there, because it's not necessarily, it's hard to understand board stuff until you're in it.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, because I feel like, because you're going into like the bylaws of the WCA, like you're going line by line trying to see like, okay, well, board member resigned, when is the next board election going to happen, who's going to replace him, and going through to see like, can they actually even do anything about this situation? That I thought was really interesting. I'm like, no one in cubing covers stuff like at this level, just because you would expect like the vast majority of people watching are just like kids, right? Like they don't really understand, nor do they really want to understand what's going on behind the WCA. It's like, okay, whatever, I go to competition and have fun with my friends, right? So I thought that was like a really interesting angle, and I was like, this is something that cubing probably would need to have at some point or another, right? Like,
I think potentially, yeah. I've got some videos planned over this. So for the summer break, I can't really do my podcast during the school holidays. So we have our big summer break over Christmas here because it's upside down land. But we so during that time I won't be doing my live streams. So RIP my YouTube revenue and my views and everything. But it's like, that's fine. It's what it is. I just can't do it. It's not going to happen. But I want to do a series, okay? And it's going to start with 2 hours of WCA regs to fall asleep to. I'm gonna make audiobook versions of as many WCA documents as I can, because they're all the publicly available ones. Like, I'm not gonna do anything. I don't want to. People think I hate the WCA, and I can understand why they would think that. But it's not that I hate them. I actually really respect them. I think they're an amazing organization. There's a lot of misunderstanding about the WCA, and I think that's what I'm trying to combat by just being like, well, this is publicly available, let's read it. Because I don't think people want to, I don't think it's that people aren't interested. I think it's just people genuinely don't want to read. And people want to be read to. So yeah, I'm going to start with the regs, because I've seen people speed reading the regs, but I'm going to make the audiobook fall asleep version so you can learn the regs by osmosis.
Dude, put that on Spotify too. It's like you can make revenue off that too, even
maybe. I've thought about that. I've thought about the multi-platform stuff. A lot of what I do on the stream is visual. So I'm not sure how well that would work, and no one's asked me to do it yet. But maybe the regs, that would be a good way to start. Just the full audiobook version of the WCA website.
That would certainly be pretty interesting. I do want to go back to the question that you actually asked us last week, right? About like,
True.
What does the WCA need to change, or like what is the radical change you want to see? You're the one who asked the questions. I want to hear from you first, Mike. What do you think? What is that radical change? Well,
I framed it around the Rubik's World Cup that Red Bull did. I don't know if monopoly is the right word to use here, but I talked about the monopoly on results, the monopoly on official results, the monopoly on format. And that does make me wonder, like, here's my big one, right, is who came up with average of 5? We all accept it. We all accept average of 5 as a standard. But I'm always just like, why? Because I always put things like this back to when I describe cubing to someone, and they're just, yo, what's the fastest solve in the world? And I'm like, well, it's 3.13, but nobody's really worried about that. It's about the average, which is this. What is the average now?
409.
409. So it's like the average is 409, and then people are just like, okay, sure, but the single's 3.13. Hey, that's pretty cool. Someone can solve a Rubik's Cube in 3.1 seconds. And it's just like, yeah, that is true. That is objectively true. Why have we landed on it? And I'm not saying that we should ever stop the average of 5. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying the WCA should necessarily change. But when I think of radical change and what I think radical change might look like in the WCA, in cubing, not in the WCA, I don't necessarily think the WCA should change what it does fundamentally. But I often wonder if there was a pro league, this thing that people like me and Dylan and other people talk about. If there was a pro level cubing, I think it has to be singles.
Interesting.
Because I'm not watching sports doing maths. You understand what I mean? Like,
no,
I'm not
yeah. Interesting.
Best possible average. Don't care. I can't sell that. I'm thinking of it like a salesman, right? I can't sell because I've got all this evidence from people that I speak to who aren't cubers. What's the fastest solve in the world?
Right, or I guess like maybe it's like a best of 5 set or something like that, because it's just having like one is like could just be anything. But
True.
Or like a shootout in a sport. I mean, you have
Right.
usually, let's say, 5 shots on goal in hockey. Imagine if instead of them breaking it down the way they do, they broke it down with an average of whatever. I mean, the average potential of scoring, I don't know. It's just so much more exciting to have it be one clear win at a time. If you have no idea what's going on. And that's what I like about hockey is I don't play it. I've never really gotten that deep into it. So I just show up. It's exciting. I know when someone scores. I know when a shootout is happening, that it's a battle to the death essentially. And it's very easy for a casual person to go to. So I think we make it very hard for the casual person to get into. And
oh, hell yeah.
I also think, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, a WCA competition is borderline impossible for someone to get into if they don't know anything about cubing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I find frustrating, is that we are not looking at it from a spectator point of view. Like, I can watch the rugby. I'm not going to play it. I barely know the rules sometimes. Like, what I'm always asking my mate, like, what happened there? What's going on? What's the infraction there? What's happening? And we don't think of it. We think of adapting what the WCA has set up, which, again, no shade on the WCA. We think of adapting a WCA comp for people. And again, that's fine, but I'm trying to think, like, how do we make the entire thing more viewer friendly? Because I'm just, what keeps coming to my mind and what keeps popping up on my phone and other people's phones who aren't cubers is that iconic Weyer brothers video from Rubik's World Cup. You know, when the two brothers went head to head and there was 100th of a second in it or something like that. Yeah. That's the kind of drama and excitement that you just cannot get, right? Because if that happens in a competition, in a WCA competition, you've got to explain it to someone. You've got to go, okay, he's solving over there, and he's got a 3 and a 4 and a 2, and he's solving over there, and he's got a thing, and his best possible average is
if it's not a world record, the best you're going to get is a golf clap. Yeah. And it's not exciting.
No, it's not. It's rubbish. Like, it is rubbish. Cubing is rubbish to watch. Honestly, if you're not a cuber, cubing is boring. But it's not boring. It's really exciting if it's presented in the right way. If there is jeopardy and excitement.
I think you're exactly right. I think this is like something that like cubing really struggles with, is like, because for most other sports, like you can watch it and you know that you'll never play it, but there's still like, you feel invested in it somehow, right? Like, I'm invested in the Bengals, even though like this season they're just absolutely tanking. Like, Burrow is just throwing dime after dime, but they keep losing, right? But I'm still so invested. I'm never gonna give up on these guys. But for cubing, like, you're not gonna watch cubing unless like your like kid is like participating in it, right?
Yeah.
Like there's like no real impetus outside of cubers, and I think that's something that's certainly very interesting in how to like make it more spectator friendly. I love head-to-head matches. I've been a proponent of head-to-head matches, I think, for years at this point. I think they're just so hype. They're so much fun to watch. But every time we get two people to sit down at a table next to each other in like a major final, those matches are just super fun. You can feel the tension, and you can like cut the tension in the air with a knife sometimes. So
yeah,
and let's make things more exciting. Let's have state championships or province championships, maybe, if that's what happens down under. Let's do age groups. I want something to compete for. I mean, if there was a mid 20-year-old age group, I might have a chance of winning. Maybe. Or at least I could travel to another state where there's a weak presence of 28-year-olds and try to get a gold medal there, because as of right now, there's all these 14-year-olds and younger that there's just no chance.
There's no way.
I mean, I want some Mickey Mouse podiums, dude. I don't even get a little certificate. So we need more of that to keep people in, and I'm all about it. And then, we don't need to pay these people. We just need to give them their certificates. And I see a lot of other sports do that, in cycling and running. I mean, there's age groups, there is genders, there's, just more reasons to get people to go out with their buddies. And, hey, if all four of us start getting into cubing, we can dominate the podium for years in the 50+ bracket. That'd be kind of a fun side quest in your late 50s.
Funnily enough, like, I've just entered the seniors because I'm over 40. I've just entered the senior rankings. So like, all of a sudden I'm in the running for an oceanic record in clock, which is like, yo, let's go. Like, that's
practice.
Revitalized me. It's making, do you not like clock? Well, nobody likes clock. I know everyone's going to hate on clock.
Okay, this is my thing, and this really is no radical change, but like, okay. I've said this. I think I said this on the Vegas stream. I think Matt and I talked about this on the Vegas stream while we were waiting for 3x3 to come up, and while we were talking about it was when we were talking about FTO and like, should FTO be considered. Look, to me, clock just seems like magic.
Oh,
In the
yeah.
it's like I understand that some people really do like it, and that's good and that's great. But Matt Marinick talks a lot about the plot. Are things plot worthy or not? And I don't necessarily agree with most of it. Even yeah, 6x6 and 7x7 pertaining to our highlight. You know, it yeah, it may be less popular, but it's like at least it's still similar to the larger events. Clock, you know, Clock is like trying to. It's like buying a car to sail across the ocean. Like, there's no reason to have it. Like, there's no reason there's no reason to have it. The metrics for it and who's really great at it, it's a whole different thing. I mean, maybe we need to make the WCA the World Clock Association. We need something new there. But no, things like clock, things like Square One.
Square One is the devil's cube. It's cursed. I'm with you on that.
It's like, but they're just like, I don't necessarily want to be like a hater because like,
You're just hating. No, you what do you mean? You are hating. You
Well, I
just
mean,
straight up are hating, dude.
I know I'm hating. Look, I'm not at the Marinick level of hating, which is everything is destined to be 3x3, but no, like I think that we kind of need to blow up these smaller and like kind of not necessarily more niche, but just like more different events. But that also kind of puts into question like, well, what about FTO or what about like Megaminx or something? Like how niche is too niche? So that's where like I can feel like yeah, it'd be a radical change, but it's kind of determining how radical it would be. Now, clock to me personally, clock's not a radical change. Like if we get rid of clock, it's like, oh, some star in the universe just died. There's trillions of stars. Clock is one of those trillions of stars that is just burnt out. And you know what? Maybe it's okay. We're not going to notice.
Does it make more sense to have tiered events where, I mean, we want all these side events or whatever you want to call them to exist? I mean, because it retains people in the community, it keeps them excited, but maybe you want there to be more of a focus on your A tier events. So, I mean, that maybe is one proposal to do it, but that's a lot of people that might get into tennis because they see Wimbledon, but then they like to do their local fun events where they go to the practice. So is there a way to maybe keep it both where we don't just chop that out of the community, but also we don't maybe put as much of a highlight where every single event gets a finals? Maybe we make our finals and Worlds just more focused.
I would actually like to offer a suggestion there then. Yeah. So I still think we should have like finals in every event, right? But I think how they should be scheduled is sort of like, okay, we're not going to do like, the first round of everything and then the second round and then the final or however many rounds and then a final. Because I think that kind of stunts everything. I think people would be more excited if the higher tier events, or really just all events, were kind of done, I guess, just having the rounds be consecutive. Or at least closer together. Especially with like 3x3. Like, because then if you're covering a 3x3 event, like then you go from the first to the second to the final, and you can see progression, and it's like then it's the actual event, and we're just focused on 3x3 for like an hour and a half to 2 hour block. I think that might be a little bit better because then we still get everyone's events represented, but like the prime spots are held by those more popular events. So 3x3 and 2x2, 4x4, clock. No.
I think like if we're thinking radical again, this is something I think about a lot. I think we're coming up with solutions to change the WCA, which feels like an insurmountable task because they are trying to please a lot of different people in a lot of different camps. I honestly like one of the radical ideas, I suppose, which isn't necessarily my own original idea, But I feel like the WCA should do what the WCA is good at, which is grassroots competition for all the events, keeping everyone happy. Everyone gets to do everything under fair and equal to conditions. Awesome. No one's excluded. Everyone can come along. It doesn't matter if you're the fastest or the slowest in the world, you're in. But I feel like we actually do need another thing. We need another space, another organization, which is all about sponsorship, money, prizes, 3x3 only. 3x3 only. Just focus in on the thing and make the thing work, right? Like, that's what I want to see. And I don't think that it's fair to ask the WCA to do that. Who runs that thing and what is it? I don't know. I want the WCA to be involved to the extent that the results from that Pro League competition can be included in official WCA results. We need collaboration between these two groups, the WCA and this imaginary group, but I feel like because the WCA is good at like I've said, the grassroots, letting everyone be involved, letting people join, letting people start, compete with the fastest in the world. That's sweet and that's cute and that's lovely. It's happened for a long time. I don't want it to go anywhere. It's so important. But we need the next level if we're ever gonna move forward and find new audiences.
You and I are cut from the same cloth, dude. Like, this is actually crazy because like we didn't plant any of this, but like this is like basically my thought entirely. It's just like the WCA is really good at what it does, and it's so good at like just getting random people to just show up and like learn how to cube, right?
Mm-hmm.
But having a division of the WCA, which is like the Pro League, right? Or whatever you want to call it. And have that like focus on like these head-to-head intense like results. You could keep the World Championships the way it is and just have another type of World Championships every other year, right? Where it's like invitational only or something even. So yeah, I think there's loads of different things. I think we live in a really exciting time for cubing because so much is like changing and more people are talking about it, and cubing is still growing even though it's not growing as much as it used to. And I think
it'll come back. Everything comes in waves. There will be another.
Yeah.
There will be another. There will be another wave, but I feel like like an analogy that's just popped into my head is like, think about a marathon, right? Anyone can join in and run the marathon in a costume or whatever, or like run it with their hands tied behind the back or whatever. Like any goofy idea you can come up with, and similarly, anyone can turn up and do a WCA competition, right? But little Timmy, with his dollar store cube, is not turning up at the Olympics to run the marathon, right?
Yeah.
Because the marathon athletics recognizes that there are professional marathon runners. There are people who are the best, the elite in the world at running the marathon. So they compete in different things, It's maybe not the best analogy because because it's still, wherever you get the world record, it's still the world record, whether it's at the London Marathon or if it's in the Olympics or if it's at the World Championships of Athletics or whatever. I don't know how that world works exactly, but you don't understand what I mean. It's still the world record. It doesn't matter where it happens because it's happening under the same conditions.
Right.
That's kind of what I feel. Does that make sense?
No,
Yeah,
it totally
makes sense.
Totally.
Yeah, hey, I want to run into the highlight of the week. It was a bit of a quiet week for highlights, but we do have a pretty big one from who else but Timon Kolosinski, the 7x7 EU record, good for 5th in the world, an average of 149.91. Manu, walk us through this.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, Timon is just Timon. Like, honestly, I could just end the highlight right here, and then you all would like know exactly what's going on. I mean, Timon broke the European record. Also, I think like literally 1 week ago at Asian Champs, also in 7x7. He didn't win that competition. I believe Lim Hung actually won that, but yeah, like he's just back at it again. I think this also puts him ahead of Janos now. Or no, I guess he already had the ER, so he was already ahead of Janos Brisky. But yeah, Timon is just amazing. And I think out of all of, so let's take N by Ns, right? Other than 2x2, so 3 through 7, Timon has every single European record except for 4x4 single and 7x7 single. And man, you have to think 7x7 single, it has to come down at some point, or maybe someone else will get the ER. I mean, Kieran is amazing, Janos is amazing, Timofey is like surging now too. So, but yeah, I mean, Timon is just what a guy. It'll be really, really interesting to see how he stacks up with the rest of the world at World Championships next year.
Can I just jump back a sec and just reference something from earlier that has just come up now?
It's all yours.
We just said the 7x7 average, and immediately in my head I was just like, we're gonna get comments about that because it's a mean, right? It's a mean,
yeah,
mean
it's
of
a
3.
It's mean of 3.
And already, what a horrible, awful space we're in if you are not into cubing, right? How fast did he solve the cube? Well, actually, he solved a single in this amount of time, and then his average, which isn't actually an average because it's 7x7, is a mean of 3 instead. So his average in that, which isn't an average, is this. It's just like, I can't sell this. I can't sell this.
Well,
I can't sell this to
tell you
anyone.
what, we're definitely
Garbage.
not making 7x7 average of 5 though. Like
Well, no.
there is no world where that's happening.
And I'm not suggesting we should. But what I'm suggesting, actually, going back to what, was it you, Rosman, that was talking about it? It's just like, no, it's about 3x3. It's about Rubik's Cubes. It's about what your mum thinks a Rubik's Cube is. It's about what your gran thinks a Rubik's Cube is. And that's all it's about, would be my guiding principle in the mainstreamifying.
A real disciple of Marinick there. The real, well, actually, trust me, that's not taking it far enough. Trust me, what you have said, brother. Anyway, do you guys have anything else you want to say?
I could go on forever. But...
What were your radical ideas? Did you have any?
What, me? I was talking about.
He wants to make it the World Clock Association. That's it. That's all of the Rosman wants.
I want to kick clock.
Basement competitions only.
I'm going to challenge you, Rosman, to learn to solve clock, and then you're going to be like, "Hey, actually, this is."
Actually, Rosman,
compete.
You can definitely learn how to. The only reason I care about clock at all is because it's the only WC event I learned how to solve myself.
Oh, very nice.
So you could definitely figure out how to do it.
Well, I'm not going to do that. No disrespect to all the clock solvers. I think throughout all of Plus 3's history, I think I've disrespected clock. Square One.
Nice, good.
I disrespected Scube. What else? I feel like I would have maybe 2x2. I think I'm gonna say something about 2x2. What?
Yeah. I mean,
Pyraminx is right there.
With all this sliding stuff, maybe we should just get rid of it.
Yeah, but yeah. Again, thanks everyone for watching. Thank you again, Mike, so much for coming on the show.
No worries. Thank you.
We know you're a busy man. You got more important things to worry about than a cubing podcast with us. But yeah, do you have anything else you want to say to the people?
Hey, I'm growing a dirty little mustache, okay? I'm growing a dirty little mustache. I'm going to send you guys the link. I'm raising funds for Movember, so I'll send you guys the link. If you could put it in the description, that would be ideal. And watch more slop, everyone. Like and subscribe.
Yeah,
I gotta say, I'm kind of beating you there, though. So
I know, you got me.
I talked about this yesterday with someone, but like, dude, how did you fail Movember? How did you fail? Like, I forgot that was a thing. I felt bad.
No, I think I literally shaved because I like completely forgot about it too. But I had shaved before going to Vegas, so I think that was October 31st. So I just managed to get away with it.
Yeah, but yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Like and subscribe. SpeedCube TV. Hey, again, Indiana Championships coming up. Do not miss it because it's going to be another electric Luke v. Luke series. We'll see if Luke Garrett is going to come back and maybe redeem himself from Swoopin' and Solve. Redeem himself. He was still second. He was so great. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. And, I mean, that's I'm so lost without the beard, man. I'm lost without it. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a good night.
Bye.